here comes the West Indies. And when you're facing the generals, nearly every ball is a funeral. And when we batting, brother, go and put your men on the boundary line. And if you give we a liquor, that is merely a hiccup. Look, you win the little battle, you lose the war. It's the same result every time. Everybody sing, here comes the West Indies. Here comes the West Indies. Them rude boys gonna get you by degrees. Here comes the West Indies. I tell you now, here comes the West Indies. Here comes the West Indies. Them bad boys gonna bring you to your knees. Here comes the West Indies. Special request to the Trinity posse. And what about the Guyana posse? And what about the Jamaica posse?
What the cricket is really, in fact, doing, it is reflecting the desire of the community to say to Great Britain, we have been colonies for 300 years, and the time has come to redefine our political relationship to Whitehall. Independence is in the air. The trade union movement is demanding the end to the colonial relationship. There is a middle-class movement speaking of sovereignty, constitutional break with the British Parliament. So the cricket and the politics are intertwined.
Through the 1930s, demands for political independence and social reform gained momentum. As the white elite resisted, the situation became increasingly volatile, and a series of demonstrations and general strikes swept across the region. But any hope for change was put on hold with the outbreak of the Second World War.
People in the morning tell them I am coming, so they better prepare for war. People in the morning tell them I am coming, so they better prepare for war. Tell them murder, kill and slay, war declare at the break of day. On the lion and
West Indians fought alongside British troops to defend the empire. But when the war ended, the soldiers returned to find that many black West Indians still lived in poverty. One of those to grow up in these ghettos was batsman Everton Weekes from Barbados. The cricket he played there as a boy trained him to play his shots along the ground.
Actually, I was born just about 200 meters away from here, Kensington Oval, and I played most of my cricket in that corner there. The houses were very close together. If the ball went through somebody's window, you know, you were given out, sort of thing. That was one of the reasons why the ball was struck on the ground.
But as a poor boy from Bridgetown, Weekes had limited opportunity. Just as West Indian society was still divided between black and white, cricket clubs were also segregated. Clubs like the Wanderers in Barbados would remain exclusively whites only until the late 1950s.
It was not like South Africa. In fact, South Africa, I thought, would have been better, where you knew that you shouldn't walk on that side of the road. And here was a little more subtle. You weren't accepted in certain places.
Frustrated by this apartheid system, middle-class blacks set up their own organizations like the Empire Club, which was established in 1914. But they refused to admit players without professional qualifications. Weekes, who had left school at 14, was left with the option of joining the British Army to play cricket. After making his name as a batsman for the Army, he was called into the West Indies team when Test matches resumed in 1948.
That was one of the most delightful things that would have happened to me when I was asked to play for the West Indies.
And later that year, on a tour to India, Weekes set a record for West Indian batsmen, scoring 5 consecutive centuries. Now rated as the #1 batsman in the world, Weekes was part of the West Indies team which prepared to tour England in 1950.
London is the place for me. London, this lovely city. You can go to France or America, India, Asia or Australia, but you must come back to London City.
This tour held special significance, as 2 years earlier the SS Windrush sailed from Jamaica, bringing a first contingent of West Indians to Britain. Its arrival began an era of mass migration of West Indians looking for a new life in the mother country.
But this the place I wanted to know. London, that's the place for me.
And West Indies cricket was also entering a new era. Although still led by a white captain, this team contained a new generation of black cricketers who would go on to dominate Caribbean cricket for the next decade. Weeks, along with fellow batsmen from Barbados Clyde Walcott and Frank Worrell, would become known as the 3Ws.
And they make you feel like a millionaire. So London.
Those players were great players to watch. They were, all had their own style. They were different. Clyde Walcott played on the back foot, very strong on the back foot, very good hooker. Frank Worrell was stroke the ball, very stylish.
And for the first time, this team also represented the diverse cultures in the West Indies. Leg spinner Sonny Ramadan from Trinidad was the first cricketer of East Indian descent to play for the team. His presence was a breakthrough for the Indian communities in the Caribbean. They had been brought to the West Indies by Britain to work as indentured labor when slavery was abolished.
They had made significant achievements financially, economically, professionally, educationally, and so on. But to have a great West Indian player, that was the hope, the aspiration of every group in the West Indies.
But in the first test of the series, the West Indies were thoroughly outplayed by England, who condemned them to a crushing defeat.
Cricket, lovely cricket, at last where I saw it. Cricket, lovely cricket.
1-0 down, the West Indies arrived for the second test at Lord's as definite underdogs.
God had won the test.
But Sonny Ramadan, bowling in tandem with off-spinner Alf Valentine, shocked England. They took 18 wickets between them, spinning the West Indies to their first victory on English soil.
The bowling was super fine.
Winning in England at Lord's in 1950, this had never been achieved, and I thought that that was the highlight of my Test career.
When the final wicket fell, jubilant West Indian fans followed calypso musicians Lord Kitchener and Lord Beginner onto the field for a victory parade. Their song became an anthem for West Indies cricket, and the press now labelled the players calypso cricketers.
Jump without fear, so at Lord's was the scenery. It bound to go down in history. After all was said and done,
for the rest of the series, the 3Ws tormented the English bowlers. In the third test at Trent Bridge, Worrell and Weekes put on a record partnership of 283. They went on to win both this game and the final match to seal an historic 3-1 series victory.
It came at a time when West Indians were immigrating to England, and when they got there, they were struggling. So the West Indies team triumphing in England at that time was a great boost to West Indians in England. But it also was a great boost to the West Indian movement towards self-determination in the West Indies. At that time, politically, West Indies were moving towards independence from Britain.
In 1958, Britain agreed to grant federation status to the West Indies. The hope was that these disparate Caribbean territories could forge a political and economic union and eventually gain full independence as a single West Indian nation.
It was surely the greatest day in the history of Trinidad. All Port of Spain turned out in the intense heat to cheer Princess Margaret as Her Royal Highness slowly drove to the Red House to inaugurate the first federal legislature of the West Indies.
But while the road to self-government was now opening up, the cricket team carried on being led by a white captain. And it wasn't as if the West Indies had built on their epic victory in 1950. They had since suffered defeats to Australia and England, with only the 3Ws continuing to prove their status as world-class players. In 1957 at Trent Bridge, Frank Worrell's 191 not out was hailed as one of the finest innings seen in England since the war, but they still lost the series 3-0. Worrell, though, had emerged as a natural leader, and Black West Indians now had a serious candidate for the captaincy.
There was a self-confidence that not only could they govern themselves, but in the equally important matter of West Indies cricket, they should captain themselves. We've come into the 1950s with many people being very bitter, especially beyond the boundary, where this political revolution had taken place, but there was still unfinished business on the field of play.
The authority of the white elite was being challenged at all levels of West Indian society. In Trinidad in February 1960, at a test match against England.
Oh, well, good evening to you and welcome to today's edition of West Indies Cricket 101. A little bit of cricket in its wider perspective there. You know, on days like this, after suffering a heavy defeat as we did yesterday, well, we would say in the Caribbean last night, you want to reach deep into our history, into our understanding of the importance of this game in its dimension, its broad dimension, in order to keep your sanity. That is that we lost handily, heavily, but when you look into the larger trajectory of our cricket, we're still alive. We're still alive. Many people, last night somebody called me and said, David, why don't you use Politics 101 to tell them boys let them come home? let them give up and come home. And I said, well, no. We have to take the long view. If that were the case, then when we started in 1928 playing Test cricket, we would have given up by the 1930s, the 1940s, but we stayed on. And in 1950, as we saw in the documentary there, in 1950, we prevailed in England and went on 20 years later to begin the longest reign of any sporting team in a game, a team sport, the West Indies dominating for almost 2 decades. It has not been equaled after then, and it was not, obviously, didn't happen before. So sometimes we have to stay on the back foot and say, let's wait. Let's wait this out. Let's wait this out. Perhaps I'm the ultimate optimist, but optimism we have to have. If you were on that slave plantation for as long as our foreparents were there, and then after the formal slavery ended, we had to wait another 150 years for quote unquote independence. If we had given up along the way, you would not have been here. I would not have been here. And so, yes, as we mourn the loss, another loss, we have to look at it in broader perspective, because our cricket is not just a game. It is tied up with our history, our politics, and everything about our being as a Caribbean people. It is no accident that C.L.R. James's Beyond the Boundary, published first in 1963, has been hailed as the greatest cricket book ever written. Another plus for our Caribbean. Why? It is not because James brought any superior understanding of the game on the field of play, but he brought an understanding of the game beyond the field of play. And that is the contribution of Beyond the Boundary to cricket history. Good evening to you, wherever you're joining us from. It's a Sunday evening, and Sunday is always a cricket day in the Caribbean. You know, remember, our cricketers were amateurs. They work and then on weekend they play. So Saturday and Sunday were always days of cricket. Good evening to you wherever you are joining us from, and we are going to be talking. We are going to be talking about cricket as we look back on that moment, that 1950 moment. You know, we must ask ourselves, what is it about these small islands, small population, small acreage of lands? What is it about us that we could have done what we have done? Look at it from 1928 to now. In 3 years, it'll be 100 years since we were playing cricket. Look at the larger arc of things. And we'll see. You saw Everton Weekes there, a gem of a man. He did something in cricket that perhaps they had not thought about before, hitting the ball on the ground. I think he only hit 1/6 in his entire career. And he explained it in simple terms. If you hit the ball in people's house when you were a boy, you're out. Right? I remember, I think it was that same 1999, landing in Barbados, and there was Everton Reid sitting at the airport waiting for somebody, and somebody pointed and said, "That is Sir Everton there." I said, "What?" And so I went up to him and I said, "Good day, Sir Everton," and he answered me normal, you know. I mean, my heart was beating because this is Everton Weekes, you know. And he said, based on your accent, it seemed like you're from Guyana. So I said, yes, and so forth. And the first question I asked him was, why you concentrating on hitting the ball on the ground? And he gave me the same explanation that he gave there. It was one of the joyous moments of my life to meet the great Everton Weekes. Not very often you get to meet these men who, in a sense, were the building blocks of what we are today. So let's look at this thing larger. I know we get beat up bad last night and so on. Last night, right? But yes, but we have to console ourselves because we can't give up this thing. Good evening to you and your gathering, and we are glad that you, in spite of the beating up, that we are still here to talk through and to make sense of what happened there. My friends are here with me. Of course, they are much more equipped than I am to talk about cricket. One of them played the game at the highest level, so, you know, I mean, you can't take that away. The other one is the son of one of our greats, and so on. And so he get to see the thing front seat. You know, a small band, when you go to the movie, you get pit, you get house, and you get balcony. Right? And pit was for people like me and you. When he was in balcony, you get to see the thing up front and so on and so forth. So they're better equipped to deal with this thing than I am. I'm talking about, of course, Dr. Vincent Adams and brother Basil Butcher, Basil Butcher Jr. Gentlemen, good evening. Basil Butcher.
Good evening, Dr. Hines. Good evening, Vincent. And good evening.
Hey, good evening. Good evening, Basil and Dr. Hines, and to our wonderful audience. I was looking at football. The Phillies Philadelphia just beat Los Angeles.
Yeah, I had that game
in the snow. In the
snow.
Yeah.
Basil, have you ever met? Did you ever meet Sir Everton Weekes?
Several occasions. He is a man. He had such a wonderful sense of humor.
Yes.
My first time meeting him was in Connecticut. This was in the 80s. We used to play for Atlantis, and we went up there for a six-a-side competition. And he was the patron. And so I went up to him, introduced myself. He said, first thing he asked me, how are you behaving? Are you behaving right? Or I call your father, you know. And I was around there, and this was a Bajan man, because we got a lot of Bajans up there in Connecticut. And a Bajan man was in the similar age bracket as Sir Everton, came up and he signing autographs. And the man said, I out you. He didn't look up at all. He keeps signing the autograph. He said, what test match? The story, the discussion ended when he just said, what test match? You out me in, right? I told my father about that. He said, you know what? I got used up because when you got some men who said they out you in school and so, what test match? He finished the discussion, right? And the other time, I'll give you another funny one. 1994, West Indies just beat England at Bordeaux. He was in Guyana. And I standing at the bar with he and the old boy. And he turned to the old boy, with the Bajan, and he said, Batch, this Richardson chap, there's do a lot of shite in the field, some of them fields he's selling, but God, like, you can't say nothing because they're winning. Yeah, man, he had such a dry sense of humor, man. You know what I mean? It's like one of my friends tell me he watching the game with Sir Everton in Barbados, and a guy play a brilliant, well, not brilliant, so the guy hit the ball for 4, and the whole crowd rearing up. Sir Everton and said, what all them going on with? Did they watch where that guy foot was? Vis-a-vis the back. Next time when the guy go again, because the positioning was not good, instead of going for 4, it went straight to the man. He said, you see what I'm talking about? That's why, I'll tell you this. That's why I used to enjoy when I go to cricket, or when I sit down with my father and we watching cricket. Because those guys see things that us, the mere mortals, because of their experience, they see things going on in the game. And then they would make a comment about it, and you say that's when I would then pick your brain. What you mean? What you mean by this? What you mean by that? Because I always tell the story. The first time you seen Chandapal bat, Chandapal make 3 runs. Presidency level match 94. Same 94 when he make his debut. Mm-hmm. And me and he walking out the border now, getting ready to walk down Robb Street to go catch transport to go back to Linden. And he turned to me and said, that chap Chandapal is a damn good batsman. I look at it, the man make 3 runs. He said, no, skipper. I saw a ball slow up on him, and he was in good position and played the ball. That is a mark of a good batsman. He was right. Chandapal went
to be one of hard runs. Yes, and of course, someone here who is in that category, having played the game at the highest level, Dr. Vincent Adams. Vincent, have you ever had a chance to speak to Sir Everton?
Yeah, many times. As a matter of fact, I was one of his favorite players.
Exactly.
Yeah, Basil knows his story.
When Vincent played on the 19,
that's right.
Your boy was in Australia, and Sir Everton was a selector.
Yeah.
And when your boy came back, Sir Everton said that Vincent is the most talented young batsman in the region.
Yeah.
The old boy was so happy to hear that.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, that was when I broke out on the scene in 68 on the 19. Well, it was on the 21 that year. As a matter of fact, a lot of people don't realize it. That was the first real youth series. Well, we had a series before that in 1966 where Kali Charan played, and I played in the team. But then we didn't play in 67. Then 68 was the Benson Hedges. It was an under 21 tournament, but Guyana, Clyde Walcott, as a matter of fact, Clyde Walcott said Guyana will be playing on the under 19 team in the under 21 tournament, because he said if you're 21 years and you make your national team, I don't see where your talent there. So we can play the under 19 team. And do you know we played the under 19 team, and we won the tournament. A lot of good players came out. But I remember, like I said, he really liked me. He thought I had great technique and everything. But I remember I was batting, and I was the batsman who was making the runs. It was myself, Yagoro, and Sam Morgan, so I was the batsman that he liked, because at the same time the West Indies was looking for an opening batsman. So I remember I was playing against Trinidad and I saw Jumri off, Inchenali off, Julian off, and then Richard D'Souza now decide, normally just decide to come on and take over. And I said, oh yes. I said, who the hell is he? Because I see half the big bowlers. And I get up 48. And first ball, Richard run up. I didn't even know Richard bowling. And I decided to hit Richard over the top. But I hit it right back in the hand. And I walk in the pavilion. And Sir Everton come up to me. And he said, young sir, what were you trying to do? He said, you're batting good all the time. Tell me what you were trying to do. So, well, Chief, I said, let me go hit you over there. You know what the man said? What he told you there, he gave me another thing. He said, do you know that 3 4s are always better than 2 6s? Never forget that. And I didn't know what he meant. And I talked to, when Basil Farr, I talked to Basil Farr. So I said, he told me that 3 4s are always better than 2 6s, but I see you just beat bowling, you hit 6. He said, with all his greatness, he only hit 1 6s in the entire career. I never knew that. And then Basil Farr told me that too when he told Basil Farr. But in addition to that, he called Clyde Walcott after that series, and he told me, because Clyde was the Guyana selecting chairman, he said, Clyde, I don't care what happens, make sure that he's in the Ghana team, because I want to take him to England in '69. He's got the technique. He's the kind of person we want in England. And well, I still made runs, so I earned my place in the '69 team, but I didn't make enough runs. And I remember when he came down, I played 2 games, one in St. Kitts and one in Jamaica. I made 47, and in the one in Jamaica, I made 21 or something, but that was a top score out of 72. Mm-hmm. So I remember him saying, what happened? How come you're not getting runs? And I said, well, and he just gave me a little talk. And then he said, but however, you made 2 scores that I watched. 47. He said a lot of people, he said, when I select a team, it's not about your score, is how you made this, like for example, if you made a 47 out of 60 or something, or if you're the 8th batsman out. And he gave me that I never thought of that. Is not, no, he said, no, it's not just the raw score. Mm-hmm. It's how you made it. And so he said, at least, when I saw you make 47, only one person, I think Leon Shorten made 70. I made 47 and nobody else made anything. And then in the game against Jamaica, which was a tough wicket, the cracks were open big, and a guy named Castle Folks was just carrying away everybody. And I top scored 21 or something, and I was like the 6th batsman to get out. And he said, no, I can see that your there is just going the next step, but I got to give you a joke on that same 21 that I made. So I got out. So I'm walking in now, and Rex Ramnareis is coming in, right? So you're passing. So I said, Rex, nothing to worry about, just take it there. Rex told me, how the hell you know all of that and you going in that direction?
Where is Rex Ramnareis now? I mean, sometimes my mind goes back to some of these players.
He lives in Queens. He had suffered a stroke several years ago. So, yeah.
But you talk about, he is probably the best all-rounder. Bernard Julian and them could not carry Ram's jackstraps. I'm telling you. He was one of the best all-rounders in the West Indies. He was a better all-rounder in my money than Julian, Boyce, and all of them. And even Ram did not know how well he could bat. A lot of people talk about the inners and outers. Ram, to me, was a better batsman. If he had concentrated on batting, he could have made the Ghana team as a batsman easily. But he was a hell of a batsman. Great all-rounder.
Yeah, because a lot of people may not know this, that in '68, the rest of the world team that was playing England, he was in England and he replaced when Gary Sobers had to go on county duty.
Yeah.
So he has that record of a man who never represented internationally that played for rest of the world against
Yes.
England. And I can tell you this, my father said this, I ain't gonna call the guy name who was in the West Indies team in 69. He said that Ram come with us in 69, we'd have won that series easily instead of a certain player who got selected. I ain't gonna say nothing.
A certain bowler?
A certain quote unquote all-rounder bowler. A bowling all-rounder. I'll give you a hint from Barbados.
Yeah. I know what you're talking about.
Nah, he was a heck.
I know you're talking about.
But even in that game, Basil, even in that game that he played for the rest of the world, he carried away like 3 wickets.
Yes, he took wickets. He played twice.
He
played 2 games for the rest of the world. 2 games.
But I don't want to give away your father. But you know, I was running through some old records and ran into that Barbadian all-rounder thing and so on. And I hadn't realized that he had played so much county cricket.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't realize he played so much. I know he played for us.
That was why he got in the team.
Yeah.
Because you know, in those days, you had county cricket behind you.
Yeah.
That counted for a lot, even more so than somebody playing Shell Shield.
Yeah. Good evening to all of you. Please share the link. We're talking cricket, and thanks to all of you for staying with us. And Basil and Adi, don't believe these talk, because a lot of people tell me they tune in for this part of the program where we reminisce, and that is why I always start with this, especially for some of the younger people here. Some of the older ones is taking them back in time. Yes, so this segment of our discussion is not waste. People make sure to tell me, David, don't stop it. You know.
Dr. Hines, just on that point, whenever in New York we play, you know, the league cricket, when we go in the park, what do you think the discussion is?
The crowd, what do you think the crowd is be? That's
what do you think the subject of the discussion is primarily about past West Indies?
Yeah.
You know?
And when you go in the park, Basil can tell you, is people don't really, you know, when you go there, you go for a lime, really.
Exactly.
And the crowd is be around the gaff. The crowd is be around the gaff, the old time gaff.
I remember they got a guy from live in Canada, play for Martin, Victor Dyers. One summer he came up a weekend and he came in Marine Park. And you know, all them guys English, all of them was in there, everybody, and cricket argument. Man said, boy, we don't get nothing like this in Canada. I said, this is every weekend in Brooklyn.
Yeah. Good evening to you and welcome to Politics 101. Dr. Adams, last week you said casually that we are in for a couple of 3-day test matches. And you were quickly corrected by Mr. Butcher. Mr. Basil. You corrected with maybe 2.5 days. We don't have to spin a coin tonight to figure out who made it. But clearly, some insight had to have gone in to that assessment, and that you all were spot on. So let's start with the broad overview, and then we're going to work our way into some of the specifics, because I think we lost that game 130-something runs or 50-something runs or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's a closer test match.
Yes.
All right. Than meets the naked eye. But anyhow, like I said, I am not the expert. The most I did, I played for Buxton in 1987. I made the team. I was a front foot player. Once the ball is up there, I lash in whether my eye open or not. And I was the highest scorer that year. We won. I think it was a third division cricket competition in the East Coast at Ball Isle. Ball Isle at that time he was working with the Island Cricket Board. He had organized it and so on. But I migrated the year after, so that record still stands. Let me start with you, Doc. The broad overview of the game.
Well, you know, you hear all kinds of complaints. Well, the wicket was fixed and everything else. I mean, put that aside because the home team always have the advantage. When you go to Australia, it's a more bouncy wicket. And Basil can tell you, you hear it all the time. I remember Fadi used to say when they got to India in the old days, dust used to be flying all over the place. So that's always the case. But remember again, this year it was. You remember England? They did the same thing basically to England. People are blaming the wicket on that same wicket, by the way. So it's not a question that they fixed the wicket for spin. That same wicket England made 800 and something. They made 500 something. They lose. The next game where the two spinners dominated was not even Moulton. It was I can't remember. I can't pronounce the name of it. Yeah, right. And then they came back to Moulton. So, but what happened to me in this game here, putting all of that aside, was again, I always believe that it was a difficult batting condition, no question. But I do not believe that we applied the way, as you know, you got to fight through these things. But it seems as if what we're doing, we're giving up. We're saying the wicket is playing bad and it's a hit or miss. Men are just going out and throwing their bats at the ball in a condition like this. We should have, you know what I enjoyed more than anything else in this test match was the 141 partnership. Even though it was on the other side, that was a classic way of how you play on that wicket. Those guys, you know, they were not swiping. They were playing intelligent shots. You know, I remember a few times they would even chip down and instead of hitting it over the top, they would just push it to long on for a single. You know, just control. That 141 was a classic way that showed if you batted that way, you could succeed. It's a difficult wicket, we all know that. But I mean, when you come in and all you're doing, you play reverse sweep, you know, the captain came in. One man, you can't tell me when you're at that level, because the first thing you do, you look at the field and look at how they're bowling. One man is down on the deep mid wicket boundary. One man. And at that early stage in the game, and it's not a case where he's got power to hit over anybody over on the boundary. And he get in there and he hit it. The man didn't even have to move. He just stood there and took the catch. And everybody else coming. The first shot they play is a reverse sweep and all kinds of stuff. That's not the way to play through these type of things. You know, when you look at the old West Indians, like Basil Fard, a lot of people say he was the hardest West Indian to get out. And I remember when I used to play with Basil Fado, and you see we were on a tournament wicket and stuff, and I would play forward and the ball would beat my outside edge and I would get worried. He would come down and say, well played, well played, son. He would come down the wicket and say, well played. I said, well played. The ball just beat. He said, no, if you hadn't played correctly, you know, it could have hit your head and you would have been out. But that's the way that those guys used to think. It's not to give away a hand. You have to work for their wicket. But it's just to give people coming on this wicket. They say, okay, the only way to do it is hit or miss. So you come in and you pelt a few lashes here, and then you're gonna get out that way. But that 141, which is that partnership, that was what made the difference. And it was. I hope that they go back and even look at that tape, at that partnership between those two guys, to see that it could be done if they bat like how those two guys batted.
But Basil, there Doc is talking about that partnership between Shakil and Rizwan.
Yeah.
That made a difference. He also referenced the fact attitude on the part of the West Indian batters. What say you?
I agree with that. The difference in the game was that partnership. And why I said this game would finish short, because none of the two batting lineups are that stout, and on a difficult wicket, the matching going into no 40 or anything of the sort. Again, I expect the next game to go along similar lines, finishing within 3 days too, right? What I saw in the first inning, for the West Indian batters, they they came to try to see if they could just simply force their approach was, I gonna block out, block
Yes.
on a wicket that is spinning and so on and so forth. That can't work.
With 5 and 6 men wrong, you
Yeah.
bat.
I give you an example. I remember one time listening to Gavaskar saying something about the difference of playing good spin bowling in conditions that favor spin versus playing fast bowling. He said fast bowling, you just react and you gotta got guts. Those are the two requisites, right? Spin bowling, it calls for much more footwork, using the crease both laterally and vertically, knowing the choice of the shot to play, playing with soft hands, because you know a lot of times you can got batters all around you, right? Know when to use your feet, know to sweep, when to sweep, and all of those various things. And go to the second inning, what we saw with our players is exactly what many of us saying, including myself. Our players don't have a lot of tools in their toolbox when it comes to playing spin. So for them, sweeps, the reverse sweep, like you see Athenaeus was sweeping left, right, and center. He was getting through, but it was just a matter of time in my view.
Yeah.
You didn't see guys who had defenses that they were confident in the defenses. So for them, see ball, hit ball. There was a point in the game when Shakil was batting and Bazid Ali, Bajid Khan, that's Imran Khan, that's our Majid Khan's son.
Yes.
Yes. He was talking about how Masood, the Captain Shah Masood, got out with a nothing shot down the leg side, versus when Shakil was playing a similar ball, how Shakil opened up and rolled with the ball, right? So he was always in control, even the ball turning, and how the other one locked off. Those are things our batters don't have those skills. Now, if you think go back in pass, that's how Vincent could talk about Obai and others. Then guys grew up on Boosie wickets. You had to bat like that on a Boosie wicket, not to ride with the ball because the ball spitting and turning and doing all kinds of things. So you develop those skills. Those guys don't develop those skills playing cricket because, first of all, most of them grow up playing more white ball cricket than red ball cricket, right? And the pitches now these days in club cricket elsewhere don't challenge batters. You know, I sure Vincent can tell you, but club match you go on, you get catch on a sticky dog and body. There's where you know whether you could bat or you could are you running to a club team that got some high quality bowlers, guys might play for the country and pushing to play for the country, and you to this weekend you gotta stand up and come about. This is not gonna be an easy thing, and especially if it's a pitch that giving some help to the bowlers. Those experience our players don't have. So the minute they get into these situations like what we saw there, they don't have a lot of options for them to fall back on to do what they're doing, you know?
Yeah, and that was the other thing, you know, going back in the old days again. Basil is right. I even forgot about that part. In the old days, you never had covered wickets.
Nope.
But you had to just, even in Case Cup,
yes,
be glad for if you're on the field inside, you're glad for a little rainfall. But when you're a batsman, you got to recalibrate your mind. You cannot drive off the front foot.
Mm-hmm.
You got the ball is stopping. But
Mm-hmm.
those are the kinds of things that and I'm going to tell you something, guys. If the two players, and you remember that team that went to Bangladesh,
mm-hmm.
the two players that showed how you played on that type of wicket, of course, the Bangladesh wicket wasn't as bad as this,
mm-hmm.
was Mears and Bonner. They
Mm-hmm.
played back very late because even I would say, why are they playing so late?
Mm-hmm.
It's just like if they were walking back right to their stop. It didn't matter if the ball dropped in the crease. And I was always worried they were going to get out. Of course, Mays make a double, Banner make 100. But they were playing, the two of them were playing, the way that maybe they could have survived this and do a little bit better. But again, I think it's just the application at all times to the condition that it doesn't matter. You can't go there and just decide, well, okay, this didn't work like Basil say, so I can just hit or miss, play anything, and hope that you get away with it. That's not gonna last for long.
Graves is a good example of that. He first ball, he get a nice slug sweep, hit for 4. And how did he get out? Trying to play the same. That shot was not on for that ball, right? I would say this: young Imlach showed.
Well, I'm coming to him. But go ahead.
Some decent defense and was trusting in his defense. And look, young Imlach get a good one. All he could do. Just tip cap and say, well bowled. He couldn't do nothing with that. He did everything that he could humanly do. And if that ball deviate, it touched all. When that ball deviate, he was over. Oh Lord, please don't touch the edge.
No, he batted well, but still he batted sensibly.
I thought he and then you see the difference when Sinclair comes in right after him. He has no trust in his defense. He just pushing hands far away from his body.
All right, I'm following the ball. Why you're just going and bat up and catch?
You could see that in Sinclair's case, it was a matter of time before he's gonna get out because there was no trust in his defense. But I was watching Imlach and I said, Imlach look like he could stay here for a little bit here, you know what I mean? But then he get a beauty.
Yeah.
And on that pitch, you would get those things. And then look, next one, Dr. Hines and Vincent, is look, my man made a nice adjustment, Louis, to negate the body off spinner.
I've never seen that before, but
that was a great thing. But then the spinner made his adjustments.
There you go.
Had no answer.
There you go.
Had no answer when the guy made, because Louis supposed to think this is. I don't know how these guys thinking. You're supposed to think, this is Test cricket. It's not no backyard cricket. So when you make your adjustment, the bowler's gonna make. So you gotta already work on your mind.
Right.
How I gonna come to it? And you could see that he did not think far enough to do that, because now when the guy started bowling straight at the start, he was like jabbing the ball.
Yep.
And I said to myself when I saw that, I said, oh shoot, this guy ain't got plan B. This one going in soon.
Good evening to all of you who are joining us on West Indies Cricket 101. We are reviewing the first test match, which wrapped up in a matter of 2 days and a couple of sessions. And we are doing not post-mortem because they can't bring back dead, as you all we just say in Guyana. Certainly trying to do some analysis and look at what happened there in its larger perspective. Basil, I want to come back to you because I think I did tease you on this program a couple of weeks ago because I tuned into the program that you do with the Jamaican guy.
Yeah, the Jamaican
and I heard you analyzing Mr. De Silva.
Right.
And his keeping. And I paid close attention. Right. Because it's an area that I realized that I take wicket keepers as they come. Mm-hmm. And while, I'm sure like me would pay attention to a batsman's technique or a bowler's technique. I realized I didn't pay attention. I've never paid attention to a wicketkeeper's technique until I heard you on that program.
Right.
And I have to say that for the second time tonight to say you were right. Right. When I look at Imlach, I saw a complete difference in wicket-keeping technique. I never used wicket-keeping and technique in the same way.
Right.
But a complete difference.
Oh, yeah.
And before you come in, Basil, because you obviously as a coach, you have more insight into this than I do. But I heard Ian Bishop when Imlach, he kept the ball I think, run away, flick off his gloves quick,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and get the ball back. He was running from behind the wicket and so on. And I said,
Mm-hmm.
wait a minute. This is what you call qualitative difference as a social scientist.
Yes,
Right? Right?
yes.
But I would not have paid attention to that had I not heard you on that
Right.
program with
Okay.
with the Jamaican
Yeah.
guy. Yeah.
Look,
But go ahead. The floor is
Look,
yours.
look, and if you remember me and that guy that was debating, he just looking at dismissals, and I said, look,
Yeah.
dismissals is the smallest part because dismissals is very subjective because the wicket keeper is dependent on the bowler to create things. So one guy could be playing with a guy in conditions and in certain series, and I look at Derek Murray. Derek Murray is an 18-year-old with me. My father, them is 63, and set the record for the most dismissal. Is Derek Murray the greatest wicketkeeper we've seen? He's one of the better ones, but nobody would put Derek Murray as one of the best wicketkeepers. But he had that record. But the thing with Imlach, as I said, one of the things I said to folks, and I must tell you, Imlach has improved his wicketkeeping from the last time I saw him, because we did not get to see Imlach in the last first class because he's kind of finger injury, so he did not wicket keep. So it's obvious Imlach has put in a lot of work on his wicket keeping. But one thing I said right away when I would discuss with Imlach and De Silva was, one, he's a way better athlete, way more athleticism. Two, his footwork is way superior. So he can get to balls that De Silva may have problems getting to balls, right? And his glove work is better. There is a consistent, and this is what I saw now. It wasn't as consistent in the past, but what he's obviously worked, his glove work is way more consistent. His hands are always more in the best position to catch the ball. People may not look at that because, oh, yeah, but you know why that's important? Because when the catch actually comes and your hand's not in the right position, next thing you know, the ball bunks out the gloves or you don't catch the ball. Why? Is because you are not consistently in getting your hands in a good position to receive the ball. You know, so he was the only thing I saw, and this is, you know, because I always looking, a player should always looking to improve. I watched him when he was standing back. He had a tendency to come up a little too early, right? Because there were several times he came up and then he had to go back down. When you're standing back, you could get away with doing that. But when you're standing up to the wicket, if you come up too early, you ain't got time to get back down. That's where guys just drop catches at the wicket. And thank God he didn't do that. But I saw him, and that's something I would like to see him be more still, wait until the ball bowl, and then start moving, right? Because you don't want to have to going down after you come up. Yeah, people always talk about that's like a cardinal sin in wicket keeping. And that's something I like to see. There's another thing he was doing also. When he was close, he would put his gloves facing down to start, and then he would turn. I don't want to see all that movement because, again, you're out there for the longest. Every time you do that and turning over is energy you're using that you don't need to be using. Keep your hands in the position that you're going to get ready and then think. You know, he may get away with it because he's a guy, from everybody I talk to that tell me about him, he is a guy, his conditioning is supreme. When they run the yo-yo test, he is like at 60. The best next one is in the 50s. He is consistently always there. He's a guy that in terms of that, he's always is conditioning. So he may not think about it that, you know, got my hands down and then I turn it over. But you want to keep your energy as efficient and don't use excess energy at all when you're moving. And especially wicket keeping, where you're gonna be spending in this test match. Fortunate for him, he had to spend 2 days behind the stumps because he gonna run into a game where West Indies gonna be in the field for 2 days. And them kind of thing. And when you're doing that over 2 days, you know, your forearms will get tired when they shouldn't be tired. And that could be the moment when a catch come, and because of tiredness, you couldn't get your hands up in in time to take the catch. So those are a couple little things I would like to see him improve. But overall, in him to the silver, as we said the old time, it was cheese to chalk.
Doc?
Yeah, I looked at the guy, very, very impressive. And I agree with everything Basil said. But here, again, I learned my cricket from who I think is the most knowledgeable person that I've had to play with was Basil Butcher again. And it's something that I played with him at Case Cup and everything. So and even at practice. And the one thing that Basil always make sure his wicketkeeper stay down, and I'm not gonna use his flowery language. but so wicketkeeping is, to me, is the hardest part of the game, bar any other position. Because remember, in a wicketkeeper, you are in the game mentally and physically every single delivery. And not only that, Dr. Hines, you try in a stupid position all day long, and you're thinking that is why I never believe. And when I was captain, my wicketkeepers would never open batting, never, because you might be out there all day and then you got to go and think. So wicketkeeping to fast bowling is as long as you got it fundamentally, it's easy, because even I used to wicketkeep sometimes, and to fast bowling, it's easy. That's why Derek Murray became successful, by the way, with Harlan Griffith days. You know, that's how he became successful. Even Finlay to some extent. But it's to the spinners. And the one thing that you must do, you got to keep down. You cannot move. If you get up too early, you cannot move laterally because you're committed. Correct. Or you can't do anything. But you got to stay down, like Basil said. You got to stay down as long as possible. And the silver was all he was all over the place. But this guy, he's impressed me, and I agree with Basil. If he can clean up that, then somebody ought to talk to him to make sure that he's got to stay down. Got to stay down until as late as possible. Because remember, when you see what's going on, then you make your move. But if you make that forced move and you pop up and it's not what you're expecting, you cannot go. It's hard for you to go laterally anymore. So I agree with everything Basil said, but this guy, to me, is very talented. And Basil said the right thing. If he is fit, and that, look at the great ones that I play with, like Res Murray. I don't think I had anybody as fit and flexible as Res Murray. The same thing with Paidano. Paidano was fit as a fiddle, and those guys are agile. And that's what it takes to be a great wicketkeeper, because a lot of times it's a reflex action too, especially somebody get an edge. You got that glove got to move. Yeah. And so no, but the guy has talent. How old is he, Basil?
He's like at my age, 27, 28.
Okay, no, he's got. I hope that they do not play musical chairs with him, and this guy, because to me, he's a far better wicketkeeper, and I think he's a better batsman too than the Silver. So I hope that they give him a run.
Yes,
I hope that they give him a run.
I hope he gets a good run. And I would say this too. Unfortunate for him, all our opponents be coming up against.
Yeah,
it's some of the best teams in the world. So my man Imlak will get a baptismal, because the next home series we got is Australia. We got to play Australia at home. So and then I think we got to go to New Zealand. So he's not going to be getting any easy outs, so to speak, to ease into this thing, right? And then to play in Pakistan on a pitch that is that is difficult.
Yes.
Even I even see even Rizwan had some problems in it.
Yeah, I mean, and in Rizwan, because I went to sleep after we got Pakistan out. I said, right away in the first, I said, we making 125 on this pitch, right? And I wake up just as when I wake up, Pakistan was batting already again. And I go through the scoreboard and I saw 22 extras, 16 buys. I said, what? Rizwan 16 buys.
Yeah.
But then I went back and I looked at the highlights and I saw none of the buys were his fault.
Right.
Because they were particularly to Khan, where if he pitched that ball on middle or leg, it turns away. No way Rizwan could get to that ball because of the wicket spinning. So come, and then there was one by the ball actually rolled. So there's no way he could have get that ball. It just passed.
Right.
It rolled. And he was obscured. And again, it was down the leg side too. And it rolled on him. Because you see when the ball roll, he go like this. So it was like about 4 times. I think all of those buys was 4 boundaries that come up to the 16 by. And none of them I would blame Rizwan for any of them.
And now that Basil mentioned down the legs, and here's the other difficulty about we can keep it. The offside is easy because everything is like, but you see when that ball got across the body, you lose sight of it. And then you gotta pick it up again. So you always judge it, we can keep it too, especially spin bowling, as to how they're stumping down the leg side and that type of stuff. Because when the ball hit and your body, because you lose the ball, and then you got to pick it up again when it passes the body. Whereas if it's on the offside, it's easier, if it beats the bat and that type of stuff. But those are the little things that,
And when we say in batting, we trust your defense, there's we trust your technique as we keep it going the leg side. Got that catch that he took off Shah Masood, the catch in the first innings that he took off the Pakistani captain. That was there is no, I will bet you this, De Silva wasn't getting to the ball.
Yeah.
He catch a ball, probably another set of, not even one set of stumps, another set of stumps with how far across he had to go to catch that ball in the leg side. De Silva ain't got that kind of agility and footwork to get to that ball, because a lot of times De Silva don't even push off the right foot when he got to move laterally.
Gentlemen, I want to take you all to a place that may not be that obvious, but we play 3 spinners, and obviously justified in doing so. But are you all satisfied that the captain, our captain, handled our 3 spinners well? I have my doubts, but like I said, I am not the expert.
No, I mean, I think Dr. Hines, you raise all of us raise a question. I thought when he in that inning, the first inning, Moti bowled so well with the new ball and did not get to bowl, did not see the ball again. I was like, how are you nurturing confidence in Moti?
Yeah.
Now in the second inning, even the same thing in second, he didn't bowl well with the new ball in the second inning, but then you're going to turn to a part-timer before you can give Moti the ball again. You go and give Hodge, and Hodge just Hodge opened the gates. Whatever pressure was on that Sinclair and Warwick Khan was doing, and then you bring Hodge on, he opened up because Hodge bowled a bunch of bad long ups and them guys get some boundaries and so on. And Moti, part of your leadership is nurturing confidence. And although Moti didn't bowl well, you gotta give him. Unfortunately, Moti come on and bowl stupidness again. But still, you can't be giving Hodge before Moti. I found that to be a little really off, in terms of, not to use the word disrespectful, but I think he really did Moti, didn't do no favors to Moti by doing that at all.
Yeah. And before I come to you, Doc, I mean, given what Sajid Khan was doing, don't you think that perhaps he should have invested a little bit more and probably a little bit earlier in Sinclair? Because in the first inning, Sinclair was getting that ball to jump all around and so on, but he brought him in late. I just want to get your thoughts on that.
That is, I think that's neither here nor there, because I think when Sinclair came on, he was most effective initially against the left-handers.
Right.
Not the right-handers. He was more effective against the left-handers. There were some overs, even Shakil, Sinclair had Shakil. But again, because Shakil got good defense, he was able to survive some serious balls at Sinclair. Well, I mean, the pitch helping Sinclair.
Right. That's my point. The pitch and
the ball
Sinclair,
much, you know. So you know, but sometimes Brathwaite is really scratch your head as to how he using ball. I think he bowled also, and I understand what he was trying to do. Seals early up to Seals was his 10 straight overs or something like that. Seals bowl, and then we couldn't get Seals back to come in and bowl for a long time. Right? You know, again, you know, he's the one. He is your wicket taker. You can't get your wicket taker bowl in such extended spell. You could have stopped him at 7 or 8, man, and say, because I want you to come back in the case if this partnership bill come back, Seals, and see if you could break the partnership, right? But Seals couldn't come back, and then we were left to the mercy. You know, the Pakistan batters were able to capitalize. They didn't have to deal with Seals. Because I remember when Seals was bowling early up, he was giving everybody trouble.
Right. Doc, taking Seals into consideration, you know, the use of the 3 spinners, and of course, what's his name, 7-4 in the second innings.
Warrican.
Yeah, I've seen Brathwaite, and Brathwaite has never impressed me as a captain who understands the game. I mean, I never forget the very first time I really lost any confidence in his ability as a captain. I remember a game in basketball. I remember because we were in the chat and I could not believe my eyes. We were playing in St. Lucia, and I think it was against Sri Lanka.
Mm-hmm.
And that wicket, when Mears had the ball, you know, seaming, and I remember Gabriel had them jumping and all kinds of stuff. He brought on Gabriel. And you know what this man did? This man removed the slip, no slip for Gabriel, and put the man at fly slip. And I could not believe and I put the man at deep mid wicket on the deep mid wicket boundary. And these people then hooking and pulling and nothing. They're trying to get out of the way.
Mm-hmm.
Move the slip, no slip. So since I saw that, I said this guy doesn't have any on it. But anyway, as to this game, and I agree with everything Basil said there again. But remember, and you know, even with the spinner, the 2 main spinners were the 2 left-arm spinners.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you know, that's without a fact. So I think, and for him, when Moti started the inning, and Moti bowled, he was like 14 overs or something.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So I could not understand, and it could, to me anyway, when he did not bring Moti, and then he went, like Basil said, and bring back a guy. I did not even know that guy used to bowl. Hodge. I did not even know, you know. But I saw my only conclusion was there had to be something personal. I mean, that's as far as I went.
You wonder.
It had to be because it didn't make any sense. And you know, of course, a lot of people say, well, he was vindicated with Warrican getting, but who knows what motive. And here, Warrican did a tremendous job. He bowled really well, but who knows if he had bowled Moti, because pressure would have been, you know, they can't, when they're done with Markham, they got to deal with Moti, or they bowl them from both ends. Bowl your best spin. I always believe in that. These are your 2 best spinners on this wicket. Bowl them. Don't go to part-time spinners on that time. But it raised a lot of questions. But here's what it did. Now, when if you put yourself in that position, you're supposed to be, you know, as a matter of fact, Moti came into this thing as even ahead of Warrican as far as the number 1 left-arm spinner.
Right. No doubt about that.
So here you are, you know, and when you're at that level, you know, you're brimming with confidence. I'm the best batsman in the team, and I'm gonna, you know, I know, you know, I'm gonna take on my responsibility, and then I'm being treated this way. That is gonna tear away your confidence.
Yeah.
So when I get that ball again with my mental, you know, now you mentally, you destroy me mentally on the field. When I get the ball, I can't focus. I'm pissed off, and then I'm not gonna bowl it. So it interferes, it messes up his confidence more than anything else.
Yeah, I think that we all agree here that the difference, and I don't think anybody would disagree with us, that the difference in the match was the partnership between Shakil and Rizwan. And I thought he did not handle his bowlers well. He had in Seals and the two left armers, your wicket takers, and given what the off spinner was doing, you had 4 aces in your hand, and he could have cut that partnership in half. I think if he had manipulated the bowlers in that partnership. Moti never came back. Seals came back for a brief moment. And I think during that partnership, he overbowled Warrican. Warrican took a lot of wicket in the second innings, but in the first innings, during that partnership, I would have brought Moti back for Warrican. He overbowled Warrican. In that 4 minutes.
And you know, Bassett, quickly before you, and you know, the thing is too, as a batsman, okay, when you get used, if I see one, like let's say I'm batting and Warrican bowling every over to me, I know I'm comfortable because I've played myself in a. But you bring on a new bowler, it set me thinking now. I've got to change up what I'm doing. You see. And I know that Moti is also a very good bowler. So now I've got to change my plan or do something. But if you got one bowler over, Warrican is not going to bowl anything different that he bowled to me in the last 4 or 5 overs. But when you bring on Moti, now it's a different, it's a different kind of a bowler. You got to figure this out. You got to start over again. So those are the kind of psychological things that mental things that a captain got to be thinking of. But I'm telling you, it just said to me, it was so beyond the pale that I'm wondering if there's not something there in the camp or personal, because that didn't make any sense to me.
But Basil coming, I have a different theory in the sense that he knows Warrican. They play for Barbados together. He's more familiar with Warrican. He hasn't captained Moti a lot, and I'm trying to say to go beyond the theory of whether there is something personal. I see that with a lot of the captains, right? Yeah. Go ahead, Basi.
I think what is obvious, he trusts Warrican more than he trusts. He does trust Warrican. I mean, look, it was on his insistence because West Indies, because somebody was talking to him about Warrican, bowling in the overseas doing well. So I responded to the person. I said, Warrican has played majority of his matches. Of the 18, 13 of them he's played overseas. He's hardly played at home.
Yes.
It was only recently because West Indies never played 2 spinners on the same team, right? And it's only recently when they brought in Warrican to play with Moti. I remember many people was like, what the hell what are you bringing Warrican for?
Right.
And what was interesting, Warrican ended up bowling better than Moti in the series that was at home when the two of them played together. And it's obviously trust him more. And Moti, I don't know Moti in terms of how he mentally is as a player, how strong he is mentally. People would know him, probably would be able to say more. But I always say confidence is something that you have to nurture. You always want to nurture confidence, and you don't do things. You don't make tactical moves that easily from the outside could be looking at and say, wait a minute, something going on with you and this player. Why you're not giving the player the ball so much, you don't trust the player. But and this test match again, you saw it there.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, Moti, and I would say this is the thing, Moti has not bowled well in Test cricket. Over the last year, since he took those in Zimbabwe, he hasn't bowled well. He has been very up and down, bowling a lot of short balls. I remember you watch games and you see batters playing Moti off the back foot a lot of times in a test match. And then, like for example, when he came back and he bowled the 1 over, the over was not a good over. He bowled one good ball that pitched up and gripped and turned and missed the edge. You know, the commentator was talking about that was a beautiful ball. But that was the only good ball in the over. This is test cricket. You can't bowl one good ball in the over. You got to bowl in all the balls or most of them.
Yeah, but you know, and I agree with that. But my point is, the man was played as the top spinner. If you want the ball, don't play him.
But obviously the captain don't think he was the top spinner.
No,
well,
I think so.
You play the man, but it looked bad when you're playing the top spinner and in the team or even the number 2 spinner. But then you bring in on a part-time, a guy hodging them in front. It looked bad. That
was a head scratcher.
Play him. That's the issue. Now, play him, and if he bowls badly, then he doesn't bowl. But don't. I mean, that's why it looks. And let me tell you guys something. Don't underestimate those. I've played, and I've. When you go off the field at nights, I have seen where personal things come into
Yeah, I mean, look at for example, Jack Leach for England, the kind of backing that Stokes gave Jack Leach.
Yes.
That Jack Leach turned in to become somewhat an effective bowler for Stokes because he backed Jack Leach to the hill. That's the kind of backing our players in West Indies cricket need because they come to the highest level lacking a lot of things.
Yes.
And it's important to give them that backing to the hill so that they understand they ain't got to be looking over the shoulder. It's about them getting better and be able to execute more consistently. So you back them, man. Back them.
And and this is very important in terms of long term because unless something happens, they're looking. Moti is looking at the long term. Young, so when you, and especially as a young player, when you start shattering their confidence like this, you're destroying that long term plan. But let's, in terms of the positive though, Warrior Khan was very impressive, and you know what impressed me more than anything else? The commentator before the game even started last night. They talked when they were talking to him in the interview to Warrior Khan. I know what Warrior Khan said. It's all about the pace of the delivery on this wicket now. He said what you got to do is slow it. You're gonna slow it up some more, and that's exactly what he did. The very first ball, slow delivery, and the guy hit through the line, and he get caught because it was a slow delivery that he just floated up, and they didn't come on to the bat, and he hit it to short mid-wicket and got out. That tells me a lot about he's a thinking type of a bowler. He just doesn't run up and throw it out.
And Moti has had problems at the pace he bowls.
Bowling the ball too fast.
And
often when he bowls it too fast, it's short.
I
mean, look at the guy on Norman Ali. He bowls some fast and thing, and he don't give away much to your you to hit. He's right on you all the time, bowling accurately, and that's what you want.
And those Pakistani spinners did something that our spinners did not do consistently. They kept the ball wicket on the wicket.
Oh yeah.
They got a lot of LBWs came into play.
And on a pitch like this, we're turning like that and so on. You always got to keep the stumps in play.
Well, before we get off that, let me tell you, who impressed me also that I think we ought to have high hopes for him is Seals.
Oh yeah, beyond.
He bowled
Seals
he bowled really well.
Seals has come on.
Yep.
As a fast bowler since his stint in England. Since then, because remember he was coming off the injury to surgery to his knee, and in England, he has really become much more self-aware of his bowling, and understands where he has to, because it just shows you on the pitch that is supposed to be the spinner's part. The most effective bowler for us in the first innings by a wide margin was Seals. And the thing about it, West Indian fast bowlers have done well in subcontinent conditions. So the I don't know if you know this, but on Mason's show, not this past week, the week before, the president and the director of cricket was on. And Mason asked about why is Alzarri Joseph in Dubai instead of being in Pakistan? And he's a centrally contracted West Indies player. And we got international cricket. And the director of cricket gave Andrew an answer about Pakistan. It's going to be all more about spin. We don't need the pace and so on and so forth. So, you know, he gets a chance to go and earn and so on. And Andrew's response to him, he admonished him. He said, that's a weak answer. Absolutely weak. Right? Now, you tell me, if Alzarri and Seals was up, you know, I kept thinking, if they wondering if the director of cricket, as he was watching, maybe if we had Alzarri on the other end, bowling at high 140s on that pitch, maybe he could have caused some even damage along with Seals, right? Because you go historically, Andy Roberts got 30 wickets in India. And then he went to Pakistan in the 2 test match, he got 12, right? And I went down the list of guys. When we went there in 81, Croft led in the 3 test matches with 17, followed by Sylvester Clark with 14, Malcolm Marsh with 13. And that was Pakistan pitches that were more placid than what you got, more placid than the ones that the spin. Because just like get the ball gripping with the spin, it can do something when the pace ball hit the seam. It's the same seam story. So you know, and this pitch got some bunks.
Yeah, they were very uncomfortable against Seals. They were very uncomfortable. Throw the match, first and second, and very, very uncomfortable.
The length he was bowling was very challenging.
Yeah, I remember talking to your friend Basil, Sir Andy Roberts, in Antigua. I ran into him. There, he used to be the pitch, look after the pitch.
Yes.
And he told me, he said they don't have spin bowler and fast bowler with pitches. If you are a good fast bowler and they prepare a pitch to spin, if you're a good fast bowler, you are able to do well on any pitch. And I've always borne that in mind. And of course, our fast bowlers in their heyday used to go to India and those places and things. Before we go, I'm gonna say 2 things. I'm gonna leave it to you all to take it. I always felt before this match started that Louis and Carty were walking wickets, right? And I was shocked when Django. In fact, all the reports were saying that Django was in the team.
Was playing,
And then all of a sudden, when I turn up on the first day, there is Carty. I love Carty. You know, I mean, he obviously he got some heart in him and so on. Louis, I don't know. But I felt that those 2 wickets were walking wickets before a ball was bowled. And I would have loved to see Django. His temperament and the fact that he is a left-handed too, there. I looked at the reverse sweep man.
Atenes.
No. If the talent that Atenes has, if he had some head with that talent, he would have win that match for us. You understand? But anyhow, as we look forward to this second test match, must we bring in Django?
I had Django in my first test team, and I was dropping Louis, right? Because I didn't feel Louis got the tools to handle bat on a turning wicket. He just ain't got the tools. And this was not knocking Louis, but it was horses for courses. Whose skill set match up best in these conditions? I had Django in my team, and in this series here, the typical opening batsman role is no longer, because It's spin bowlers opening the bowling, right? And so therefore, it's more who got the skill set to play spin bowling is the ones you would have up there. It's not a typical opening batsman where the seamers got the ball seaming and nipping around and bouncing around, and you as an opener, you got to know how to leave. Because they not no leaving business with the spinners. Them leaving thing out the window. Unless the ball really outside, you're going to leave, right? Because so I thought that was my pick. I had Django playing and Louis sitting on the bench. You know, they got to make a decision. I got a feeling, I don't know if he's going to do it, but I would like to see Django get a look in the next test match.
Doc?
Oh, without question. I always liked Django from it, you know, and I didn't even know about the guy until I think it was last year I saw him for the first time. But again, the most important thing when you get to this level, because everybody could play out the same shots and same, it's mental toughness. Mental toughness. And this guy, to me, he impressed me more than anything else with his mental toughness. And that's the kind of thing that you want here. And so I was like Basil. I did not pick Louis, you know, to play in front of this guy, because Louis, you know, Louis is a stayer. You know, he did okay in Australia, etc. But he's not the kind of batsman that you could say, well, okay, he's, you know, but like Basil said, it's not a case where you want your classic opening batsman. Right. You know, that's out of the window. So I can't see how he will not be playing in the second test. I really cannot, because that's the kind of portion you need, at least a stabilizer. And if he can get in there for a little while, he would stick around and he would play the kind of innings that you saw those two guys played with the 141 partnership. You know, hit the ball as it goes, he play late, and those type of things. So I'm hoping that he gets enough.
If Roach feels well, are we bringing in Roach?
No.
I hope they don't go as they would say in Ghana for sentiments. I hope they do. I mean, I love.
Look, I mean, look, Dr. Hines. Pakistan picked this seamer with a guy Kuruma. How much over he bowled, right? Look, and I can tell you about Django. I happened to be on a panel on Mason show before the team left, and he was a guest. I was so impressed with this guy's self-awareness as a cricketer. I asked him some questions about the things what you think need to be done to help you guys develop, and he was right spot on. And he said something that really endeared me to him. He said, I know this what I'm gonna say right now. My colleagues not gonna like me for it, but us, the young players today, they don't like to take advice from the older players. And he said that is a big mistake. He said when he got into the Trinidad team, Ramdin was a captain, and he being a wicketkeeper batsman like Ramdin, he said he would soak up everything Ramdin. He under Ramdin tail, asking he this and that. He said that is so important, right? I mean, the part that really is the self-awareness, because as Vincent will tell you, the more you know your game, that bodes well for you when you can go out there. Because if you don't know your game, you ain't gonna know what's your strengths and your weaknesses and what to do and apply and so on. So the more you know that, the better for you. And that's something that guy knows a lot of his game, because he said when he came and he started playing first class at 19, 20, he said he wasn't ready for that. He wasn't ready. And then he went back to where he pointed out in club that we're not getting prepared like maybe in the past when you played in the club, you played club cricket and you developed certain things. He said that did not help him in his trajectory. Club cricket did not help him in that way at all.
And you know, it might not have been the same interview, but I saw an interview with him, and he expressed the same kind of sentiments.
Yeah,
and the thing that came out,
commentator.
That's the one you're talking. It's the guy's hunger. The guy's hunger.
I saw that one.
And his humbleness. And the family support too. You know, him talking about his family. His head is right there where it belongs. And with the most important thing, it's not arrogant, and you know, and his head is right there. and I believe that's why I said he's mentally
Yes.
ready.
I was very impressed. Very impressed.
Dr. Vincent Adams, Basil Butcher Jr., thank you all so much for coming through this week. And next week, hopefully, our conversation would have a different flavor to it.
When does the next test start? When
I think it starts on Wednesday or Thursday.
Saturday, I think, man.
Saturday? The 25th?
Saturday night,
Remember,
Friday
this game
night.
had 2 more days. This game had 2 more days.
This game, right. I think it starts on the 25th. The 25th is when? Saturday?
Yeah, I think
Saturday night or Friday night?
Friday night. I think
Friday.
It starts Friday night.
Yeah.
Because it's Friday night is Saturday. It's Saturday.
The game would is scheduled to be finished.
To be finished on Tuesday.
Tomorrow night.
3 days in between, and then you
right.
Because there's no travel because the game is playing right there in
Moulton.
In Moulton, you know. So there's let me just make sure. You make sure for you before we part here.
Pakistan might be a little bit worried now that Warrican is doing the same damage that this.
But you see, I think for Pakistan, because most of those guys would have never seen Warrican before.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. The next game is to see which team adjusts best. I don't have the confidence because in terms of our guys, I don't think they got the tools in the kits, the toolbox to do that. But I think some of the Pakistani players, because they play a lot of spin, and now they see this guy, they get a better idea as to what he does well and what and so on. So they gotta understand how to play Warrican, you know, because you remember Warrican was defeating them with a straight ball. They
Yes.
They had no answer to it.
Yeah. We'll see. You know, I had hopes for Hodge because he's a guy that plays deep in his crease, right? And I had hopes for him, but
yeah,
there's so much about.
He looked like Louis. He get bowlung like Louis. How Louis get bowlung in the fourth inning
through the gate. I was asked.
You can't open up to Khan. You always looking to play Khan straight back there or on the other side of the wicket, on the onside of the wicket. You can't open up to that guy. The ball turning big. No, that is crazy.
Here, in all of my years play and looking at it, I never saw anything what Louis did there. I said, wait a minute, this is a maestro thing. I said, I never seen this before. and then the bowler started bowling it full right on the button.
Yes. And he had no answer because now he was like kerfuffled, as you would say. Well, what gonna do now? What gonna do here now? And then what you gonna do? Charge them like you get the message.
Yeah. Basil, Vincent, see you all next week, my brothers.
All right.
Take care.
Yes.
And to your audience, again, another Sunday, another analysis of what happened on the field. We keep on keeping on because we must. Big week coming up. Tomorrow is Dr. Martin Luther King's Day, for those of us who pay attention in that direction. And then it's the week after budget in Guyana. So for a lot of you here are on during the week. So it's quite a week ahead of us. But we come back next week for another edition of West Indies Cricket 101 with Dr. Vincent Adams and Basil Butcher Jr. Here's hoping, as I said, that next week we'll have a little different flavor as we come on. Good night. See you all tomorrow.
Here comes the West Indies. And when you're facing the generals, nearly every ball is a funeral. And when we batting, brother, go and put your men on the boundary line. And if you give we a liquor, that is merely a hiccup. Look, you win the little battle, you lose the war. It's the same result every time. Everybody sing, here comes the West Indies. Here come the West Indies. Them rude boys gonna get you by degrees. Here come the West Indies. I tell you now, here come the West Indies. Here come the West Indies. Them bad boys gonna bring you to your knees. Here come the West Indies. Special request to the Trinity.